What is up, guys? So it is officially early for me. I say that every time, but it's almost noon. I'm just lazy. Waking up this morning, I saw this post last night. I did not read through all of it. I tried to, but I got to thinking maybe it would be better if we read through it together and kind of had a little bit of a discussion on it. Basically, this is pertaining to the whole banning situation, and Dromps actually goes through and talks like strategies on how they actually come up with cup ideas. I kind of want to read through this and kind of discuss it, not only for my understanding, because I do want to understand this stuff more, but for yours as well, so that maybe you guys can have some insight into what's going on behind the scenes. Of course, if you've already read the thread, then this pretty much isn't going to be any new information other than like what my thoughts are. So yeah, let's hop in. So, deeper insight into Arena Cup creation, the Nightmare Edition. So the Arena team is still working furiously to get the leaderboard update out the door. We've finally just proceeded to a small group beta and bug hunt. Progress. As a matter of record, we are down 6 liters of Dr. Pepper. So, my only comment about the leaderboards, I'm not like super worried about my placing on leaderboards. I know a lot of people are, like that's a big thing to some people. It's not for me. I'm not like super big into like I have to have the #1 spot. Like I'm not that type of guy. So while I know that some people are kind of getting impatient with the leaderboards, for those of you that are getting impatient about the entire leaderboard situation, I'd just like to remind you, good old Shigeru Miyamoto here, a delayed game is eventually good, but a rush game is forever bad. So while it may be taking some time to get the leaderboards out, at least when they release, they will be a lot more polished than they were 2 days ago when they said they would come out. Then he says, so with so many discussions popping up today around the upcoming cup meta, particularly in light of the league's first species restriction, I'd like to hop out of the engineering department for a few minutes to share a little more detail I think may be helpful. Give some concerned minds a little peace and make sure you have all the information available so you can plan resource usage strategically. We're always happy to chat about how or why a decision or experiment came about in the arena. There are just so many hours in a day, and I've only finally surfaced to answer questions. First off, if you're new to the arena, welcome. And I think that's a really powerful line right here, because that line is pretty much what this entire cup was designed for, but we'll get to that. The arena's monthly cup. So each month the arena designs and hosts a new epic global tournament, the monthly cup. These tournaments are not open league PvP cups. They have specifically crafted metas that are designed to test you, particularly your master of Pokemon strategy and knowledge in a variety of unfamiliar scenarios. Here's what we shared back in January on the roadmap, which I remember when that roadmap came out. It says this season will feature 8 themed cups, tournaments designed to be played locally and by local communities at their meetup. Held once during each month at the discretion of a local community leader. Each cup is designed to test competitors' mastery of Pokemon mechanics and will feature special restrictions, like only pink and purple Pokemon would be permitted. The details about each cup will be released a few weeks in advance so players can research, hunt relevant Pokemon, and practice, which I think they have kept up on that, for sure. Notably, they are not designed to test whether you live on a gym and on a gacha, have traveled to another continent, have amassed enough Pokemon Go XP to hit level 35 or even level 40 3 times over, or have 2.4 million Stardust in reserve. Our cup philosophy is still that which we declare on our season roadmap at the start of the season. While we haven't yet run a pink Pokemon Cup only, it may happen. We may also, for example, test your mastery in a meta with the only first stage evolutions being available, or in Ultra or Master League. No competitor should ever feel finished or comfortable in the arena just because they have invested in one species or another already. You do not win a Sylph Cup arena without doing your homework and outperforming opponents in real time. So that's pretty powerful. The fact that he's basically saying the entire purpose of these cups is to not allow the exact same meta to happen over and over and over. The Sylph Arena is wanting a very diverse meta every single month. They want different Pokemon to be the stars every single month. They don't want somebody who has worked for a month on gaining the Stardust to max out their Medicham to be able to win 6 months in a row. They want to give everybody the option. While it is nice to have invested in that Medicham or that Sableye, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the best every time, and that's what their goal is. They want people to have fair chances amongst every person. Arena Cup Meta's design properties. So competitive PvP as designed by Niantic is expensive. But the Arena team knows these high costs for becoming competitive are a barrier to adoption in many communities. Yes, that's the entire reason that my community will not do it. At the same time, however, each meta needs to be conquerable with strategy and skill, not luck or mere grinding, to be rewarding, and also to show the arena system who the true strong competitors are. So yes, my entire community, my very small community locally here, is completely, they hate PvP. One person hates it just because he hates the idea of me versus you. The other person, my brother, he just entirely hates the fact that how much it costs to get into PvP. The fact that you have to grind so much Stardust to even come close to being good, he hates that. So that's what they're trying to alleviate with these cups. Our cup design team spends a great deal of time analyzing and simulating iteration after iteration of potential cup challenges. We utilize familiar tools and APIs like Pokebattler and PvPoke, along with others we've created ourselves to identify issues with potential cup metas. That would be extremely cool to look at. I'd love to see their own system that they have created for that. We have some brilliant minds working hard to create rewarding metas, and the team has gotten pretty good at this. If I might pump up them a little bit. Where possible, aims like the following are all examined for each iteration. So basically, here are the goals that they try to strive for whenever they make each cup. They want to provide a diverse meta with many viable species. Okay. So in the Kingdom Cup we have around 115 participants, and in the Twilight, I don't remember how many exactly were in the Twilight. It was quite a few. I'm pretty sure it was more than the Kingdom Cup. And now in the Nightmare Cup we have 90. So while they are trying to provide a diverse meta with many viable species, that number of species available has gone down, at least in the last 2 months. I don't want to say it has since the Twilight Cup, but at least from Kingdom Cup to Nightmare Cup, the amount of species even available has dropped. While they have dropped the number of species though, banning certain Pokemon like Defense Form Deoxys, Mew, Lugia, stuff like that, it has increased the viability of other Pokemon inside of the 90 Pokemon. So while they are banning certain Pokemon, it does increase some other Pokemon's chances quite a bit. It says to prevent a meta from distilling into the same 6 species on every team. So I think that's very important. I love going to a tournament and not having to prepare for the exact same 6 Pokemon over and over and over and over and over. The Kingdom Cup is that meta. To me, that's what that is. There are 4 Pokemon that are core, and then you have 4 more Pokemon that are gonna probably show up. So you literally are just making a team of 6 out of 8 Pokemon, and you're pretty much at the top competitive tier. I don't like that. I love, I really hope this month for the Nightmare Cup we're gonna get to see Heracross and Xatu and what else do I have written down? Gallade, Bronzong, Alolan Raichu viable. Like, I want to see as many Pokemon as I possibly can at a tournament. That would be amazing. Then it says to provide cost-effective options to be competitive. So lowering the amount of Stardust that you actually have to spend to be competitive is a goal. Prevent overwhelming meta-reliance on a species not all competitors can obtain. So that's a big one. The fact that Medicham has to be a 100% maxed out Medicham in the Great League to be the top like echelon, not a lot of people have that, and not a lot of people can just go out and get 100% IV Medichams. Like, the fact that there are tons of people out there that can just go get decent Zatus or decent Bronzongs, like you can go get those Pokemon. It's a lot easier and it's a lot less daunting as a player to power up Bronzong and Zatu a few times rather than Medicham all the way to level 40. And then the fact that if you don't have that 100% IV level 40, it doesn't even really feel worth it to invest in it. So why would you? You know? Prevent overwhelming meta reliance on a newly released or otherwise still scarce species. So that to me is targeting just straight up Bastiodon. The fact that Bastiodon is extremely rare still, the fact that Riolu is still extremely rare, having a meta that relies on those two Pokemon really makes it hard for some people to get into this cup. The fact that it's so difficult to get two of the best Pokemon in the entire cup means that I, as a player, just, like, honestly, at the beginning of the Kingdom Cup meta, whenever it first started to develop and Bastiodon was going to be like the best thing to have, I seriously started commenting on my videos and telling people I'm probably just going to go for the meme this month. Like, I'm literally just going to use baby Pokemon or just something extremely outlandish, because there's no point in me trying to dump all this dust into Pokemon that I don't even like have yet, and I'm trying to fill holes based on those Pokemon, but it's just not worth it to me. Like, I just don't want to do that. The next one is to prevent overwhelming meta reliance on species that need to be maxed. So there we've already talked about Medicham there. Ensure the investment for first time competitors remains reasonable. So that one's a pretty important one. Keeping the investment idea constant throughout the cups is nice. Having, the way that I interpret that is meaning, like, if I'm a first time competitor and I realize, like, oh, you know, I gotta spend 200,000 dust this month to be competitive. Okay, well, let's look at what place did I get this month. Oh, well, I got third. That's not too bad. You know, maybe if I spend 250,000 next month on a different set of Pokemon, maybe I can be first. But they're trying to keep that investment decently low to be good, so that everybody has a chance to be good. Does that make sense? Where possible, they'd like to recycle species from previous cups. Of course, that is an amazing point. That is perfect. I love the fact that we can recycle Pokemon and not have to spend the dust on that. I've already talked about that. By the time you guys see this video, the fighting type video is already out, so you've already seen, like, I talk a little bit about how Toxicroak is basically a free Pokemon this month because you already have one from the Twilight Cup. So, free Pokemon. Where possible, give atypical species their day in the sun. Now that's amazing to me because everybody that is watching this video has a favorite Pokemon. Whether it's in the first 4 generations or if it's in the last half of the generations, you have a favorite Pokemon. And if there comes a time where this cup features your favorite Pokemon, you would love for that favorite Pokemon to actually have a viable chance in this cup. For me personally, in this Nightmare Cup, Heracross is my favorite Pokemon to use in this cup. I love and adore Heracross, and therefore I'm going to be using him in this cup. The fact that he has a viable chance this month means that I'm happier with my decisions to use my favorite Pokemon. Having my favorite Pokemon on my team feels really great. So where atypical species can have their day in the sun means that they're trying to eventually get everybody's likes and favorite Pokemon inside the cup, because using the same Pokemon over and over and over and over and over kind of gets stale. And if your favorite Pokemon comes up as an atypical great pick this month, then that's just icing on the cake for you. Is this dream meta actually possible? Not really. Has the arena knocked it out of the park in the first 4 cups? Some more than others. And all with room to grow. Boulder was super defined, which honestly was probably fine as the community needed a little hand-holding to kick things off. Twilight, you were almost guaranteed to have the 3 of the same species as your opponent, but your next 3 were very diverse. Woo! Tempest gave a little bit too strong an edge to a scarce regional species, talking about Tropius of course, and Kingdom is very polarized around 1 or 2 very scarcely new species. Of course, Riolu and Bastiodon, which we've already talked about. Learning from all of these have informed our team, and these learnings will continue to reflect in future Cup challenges. That's nice. Okay, so I had read all of that prior to making this video. Everything else in this video is completely new. I haven't read any of this stuff. So long-term investments and the arena. Nightmare is coming, and some are left wondering a few things. Did the arena team explore in depth adding bug or ghost to the meta? Of course. Wouldn't that have magically fixed everything and resulted in a diverse, unpolarized, affordable meta? Unfortunately, no. Aren't species restriction a lazy way to balance a cup? He says running through potential restricted species creates far more analysis work, but the outcome is objectively the best meta balance we've seen in the arena yet, and a satisfying way to get more psychic action into PvP. That's one of the things that I didn't realize early on, is how just immensely powerful the psychic typing is. Like, all of the big named legendaries are psychic. All of the big special attackers are usually psychic. Like, of course there are several caveats to that, but like in general, just the psychic typing is huge. Like, it has such a big stat pool, and it's crazy that like you have to really work around some of that stuff, because some of those Pokemon are just really difficult to play into a meta type situation and it be diverse and it follow these goals that they're trying to hit here. It's really hard to make that happen. He then goes on and says, but I'd like to answer a few more common questions in a little greater depth so that you know the best plan strategically. Are species restrictions permanent, or do they mean we can't use the Sableye/Medicham we powered up for a prior cup even in the future? He says nothing in the arena is permanent except your victories. He's a smooth talker. Medicham will certainly be back, so will Sableye, and so likely will be the Mythicals and Legendaries. They're just not in this Cup's challenge. Pokemon Go is 3 years old already, and time is flying by. The arena is going to throw a lot of new challenges your way to prove yourself and climb the global ranks. So don't get transferring on your Medicham just yet. Who in the right mind would transfer it? It sort of hurts to power up my Sableye and not get to use it. Won't casuals be turned off by that? Those investments are not wasted, and we in fact generally look for ways to get more mileage out of your past arena investments. Just wait a few weeks and see what the next meta holds. But it may be helpful to keep in mind the priorities of the meta design I listed above. If a species, type, or class of Pokemon polarizes, spikes dust/candy costs, or de-diversifies a meta too far, we may give it the boot for the particular month and bring it back in a different meta with different dynamics where those side effects are better mitigated and balanced. Very good. I'd like to share a little data as an aside on these 2 species in particular. It may surprise you to learn that A, more than half of players did not even bring a Medicham to the Boulder Cup. It's expensive. Less than 4% of those who've competed in the arena have ever brought Sableye into battle. Less than 6% in Twilight, less than 3% in non-cup tournaments. That's big. These considerations, and many more, have weighed carefully in our meta creation process. So why wasn't Tropius, for example, banned in the Tempest Cup if those are the meta priorities? They're scarce and give unfair advantages to spoofers, multi-accounters, etc. Why aren't you consistent? It says, remember this is the arena's inaugural season and we're in public beta. We're all working to build this scene, and especially in Season 1 that includes experimentation and trying out new things. In the case of Tropius, however, a species restriction was discussed and analyzed at great length. In the end, we made sure Tropius wasn't necessary to win. For example, the #1 ranked player in the arena didn't use one in Tempest, swept a 7-round cup without it. Whoa. And when we wanted to watch how it played out and learn that the community's flexibility and ability to prepare their own team and succeed despite species scarcity. Reaction to Tropius revealed a lot about how local communities feel and behave, and we learned much more from that meta. That's interesting. So, while they did discuss a ban on specific Pokemon in the past, like Tropius in the Tempest Cup, it wasn't necessary because they wanted to exemplify the fact that to win in the Tempest Cup, you didn't need Tropius. While Tropius was really good, he wasn't necessary, and it proved itself when the #1 ranked player in the arena didn't even use one. Smart. But why would I want to invest any dust in something lesser than the OP series per type like Sableye? He says, well, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to outplay your opponent who are preparing under the same fresh meta. Those only looking to power up traditionally OP series outside the arena are welcome to do so, and can even use the free GG tools for hosting general ranked tournaments and even unranked meta in their own creation. So he's basically saying that if that's your prerogative, go for it, but we're trying to create fresh metas that everybody has to work towards to become the best at. He says if you still want to use those Pokemon, you can still create, unranked matches and do that as well. He says we'll continue to seek out metas balanced to avoid and mitigate heavy investments into atypical species. No one wants to pour 275,000 dust and 200 candies into Sentret. And here again, if Sentret is your favorite Pokemon, you may be the crazy one to do that. This is not an easy feat, but it's one we care greatly about continuing to solve. We're working against the game here. Talking about working against the natively expensive cost that Niantic has instilled with the CP instead of level cap. Nevertheless, you never know when another B-tier knockoff may once again be a top option in an Arena Cup. Also, if you're fearful of investing in the wrong thing, just wait for Cup announcements and the community's understanding of the meta to solidify. Then pick your horse, spend your dust, and ride into battle ready to rock. Or spend it on whatever you like. This is a game at the end of the day. We're here to have a good time and discover the fiercest trainers in the world. So, very important line there. This is a game at the end of the day. There's arguments on both sides of that, because while it is just a game, if it's not fun, people aren't going to play it. Yeah. But basically, the bigger picture here is spend it on whatever you like. It's your game. Play it your way. Enjoy it so that you can continue to play it. I feel like that's what his entire meaning is behind those two sentences. Hopefully this helps illuminate what goes into Cup meta design in the arena and what to expect in the future. Also, we're always on the lookout for another brilliant mind to join our meta design team. We hope you're having fun as you work to conquer each Arena Cup meta. If you're not having fun, please share your feedback, or perhaps even take a breather and go spend some dust on something non-meta relevant that just sparks joy. Remember, the arena is a hobby project, a free labor of love in public beta. Things are still written in pencil, not in ink. But know that deep analysis goes into these designs and they're improving all the time. We've had tremendously good time in Season 1 so far with you all, and the best is yet to come. Hashtag Leaderboards, Regionals, Worlds, Arena Battle Yacht. Executive Drumps. TLDR, there is no TLDR. So, that's kind of the grand scheme of how they are doing these Kingdom Cups and Nightmare Cups and all that good stuff. So while intentions are extremely good to create a diverse meta, to create a meta where everyone has a chance, in some aspects it does knock off some of the top tier players, but like if you really like think about it, let's just look at it in a different perspective. Like, if I don't have to invest, you know, 200,000 dust into a Pokemon this month, I'm happy about that. I truly am. Like, me personally, as me right now, I'm happy. What that does is it makes me think about how can I do this differently? How can I come up with a team of 6 that actually changes my outcome based on a limited amount of resources? The entire reason that people were excited about the Great League is that it gives a more diverse set of Pokemon that are actually viable. Whereas if we go into the Master League, it will literally just be a cup full of people that have 100% IV maxed out legendaries, maxed out Pokemon. Like, that's what the Master League is there for. It's there for the top tier of Pokemon. So the Great League provides vastly so much more of a diverse group of Pokemon that can actually be viable. And even on top of that, they are trying to narrow it down to several different types of Pokemon, but as well try to spread that diversity amongst those 3 or 4 types. And every month, I feel like they've done a decent job so far. I mean, his big thing down here about how it's, you know, in Season 1 they've learned a lot. I think that's a big deal, because while we are still extremely early, think about it, we're only 4 months in. We've only had 5 metas announced so far. So, I mean, we're extremely early, and this is only going to get better. And I think that is the most important part, is that all of these steps that they're taking are to ensure a more diverse meta, not only today, but a year from now. So if that's what has to happen, if they need to ban legendaries, mythicals, and even specific Pokemon to get to that point, I'm all for that. I completely understand if that's the entire point of banning these Pokemon now, to get to a position where in the future it's a lot more streamlined, it's a lot easier. The tools that they have developed have matured to kind of understand, oh, well, if we did have Psychics in this cup, Metacham's going to be OP, so we can just do this and figure out a way to, you know, mitigate that. And oh, well, even if it's a maxed out Metacham, all these other Pokemon have really good matchups against it, so it's not even like it's that big of a deal. I feel like in the Nightmare Cup, Lucario is one of these Pokemon that is really, really good. Don't get me wrong, but he's also very easily beaten in the Nightmare Cup as well. So while it's not, while it's a good investment to have, while it's an interesting Pokemon to try to obtain at this point, it's also not necessary by any means to me. Like, I don't feel obligated to use Lucario like I would in the Kingdom Cup. Because early on in the Kingdom Cup, like I said, Bastiodon, I was like, screw that, I'm not going to do that. And then also I have to freaking find a Lucario, like, screw that, I'm just going to do something totally different. And as soon as I hatched my Riolu, it was like, okay, now I feel a little bit more viable. That feeling is what they're trying to mitigate. The fact that people have this, like, almost like a sort of depression or a repulsiveness towards the cup because they don't want to invest or grind or find these Pokemon. And it's not that they're hard to find for us, it's that Niantic makes it so difficult to gain some of these Pokemon. The spawn rate on Shieldon is abysmal in my area. I've seen, honestly, I think I've seen like 7 wild Shieldon, and that's it. Like, he's been out for months, and I have only seen 7. Even in partly cloudy weather, he's just non-existent for me. Like, it's so hard to find them. And then Riolu, like, holy cow. Is Riolu seriously not even in 10Ks anymore? Like they've taken him out of 10Ks? That's horrible. 1.5%. 1.5%. You have the same amount of odds to get an Alolan Meowth. Let's think about that. Alolan Meowth, Alolan Diglett, and Alolan Vulpix all could have been your Riolu. By the same odds, you would have had a Riolu, but instead you got a Alolan Meowth, Alolan Diglett, or an Alolan Vulpix. How messed up is that? Like, honestly, how messed up is that? That sucks. Like, as a player, that is so demotivating to me to know that, oh, I could have had that, but instead, I got these three. And yes, RNG is a thing, I understand that, but, like, it's so, like, underwhelming. And that is what they're trying to mitigate. That's what they're trying to do, is actually keep that feeling away from players so that people actually want to enjoy PvP. People actually want to participate in these cups. I had several comments talking about how attendance is down and they feel like this is, you know, gonna crash and burn, but honestly, like, if you think about what they're working with, I mean, Niantic has instilled some extremely difficult rules to work around, and they're only trying to mitigate it and make it better. So if people don't, like, look at the big picture, that's on them. Like, just let them do their thing. But if you enjoy Pokemon, if you enjoy PvP, then keep doing it. Like, there's no reason to stop at this point, because these guys are trying to make it better. These guys are doing an amazing thing to give us so much strategy every month that we have to work towards. Like, that's the entire reason that I'm in it. I'm not in this to win it. I'm not in it to play. I'm in it because when I played TCGs, that's what I did, is I sat at my kitchen table and I, like, theory crafted decks over and over and over and over and over. I used to play the Dragon Ball Z card game from Panini, and I would just sit there and just theory craft over and over and over. When I played Yu-Gi-Oh, I would theory craft and just come up with, like, obscure odd decks that it may take them like 6 different games to actually get off their win condition, but man, was it so satisfying. That's what I love. That's what I really, really enjoy about this. If you're just in it to, you know, just use Medicham and use Sableye and get upset whenever they ban them, you know, take a break this month. Just step away this month. Say, you know what, this month isn't for me. I can't use my favorite Pokemon. I can't use my maxed out Pokemon. Whatever your reasoning may be, just take a step back, because the bigger picture is they are definitely trying to improve upon a great concept and trying to help us have a fun experience while having a competitive experience. If you guys haven't read through the thread, I will literally copy it and paste it into the description of this video. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Check out what you guys think about it. And yeah, I mean, let's discuss it in the comments. I'd love to hear your guys' point of view. I'm sure there's going to be several people that completely are going against the grain of what they want to do, but honestly, like, that's exactly what he said right here. If you're not having fun, share your feedback. So even if I have to be the guy that gets the feedback in comments and, you know, can post it somewhere or just even give it to Dromps, like, I would love to be that guy. Like, I feel like that would be helpful. So I'd love to be helpful. Anyways, I'm rambling at this point. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoy this type of video. It's completely different. Don't worry, this isn't taking a slot of a deep dive or anything like that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a very wonderful day. And until our next video, I will catch you then.